Hello, and welcome to our episode of Todd Talks and Todd Talks. People listen. Marty! What are you doing drink over here? Wubba lubba dub dub! Oh, hopefully. Today we are talking about Scooby-Doo versus Courage the Cowardly Dog. Oh, wait. Sorry, still drunk. Yeah, we're actually talking about Rick Sanchez versus the Doctor. It just doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? I am still very much high off of talking about Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I have absolutely watched that episode over 10 times. It's really good. It's really good. But I am excited for this episode in part, and I'll explain why later. But let's dive right into this madness because, boy, are these characters complicated to talk about. First up, we have Rick Sanchez, a.k.a. Rick and Morty. And yet, even saying that is not entirely accurate because, as all of you who have watched Rick and Morty know, Rick isn't actually Rick. Go with me on this. So, in this universe that was created by very, very, very demented people, like I'm not even joking about that, very demented people, Rick is just, the Rick Sanchez that we follow in most of the adventures is just one of many Ricks in a multiverse. Okay? In fact, his real name is Rick C-135 or something like that. So he's just one of many Ricks out there. But this Rick is important because of what would happen in his life. Specifically, when he was young, he was a rather gifted inventor and creative man in his own right. And eventually he met a woman named Diane and got married and had a child named Beth. And as he was struggling to make a portal gun, which I know many of you will light up about because that's one of his key things, he met Rick Prime. Yes, Rick Prime, as in the first Rick, the Rickest of Ricks, I guess, which technically now our Rick is called, it doesn't matter. Rick Prime offered this Rick the chance to go on multiversal adventures with him, but our Rick declined. How noble of him. That's something you will not hear me say a lot in this episode, I promise you. Rick Prime was so angry at this Rick's refusal that Rick Prime, sent a bomb through a portal to kill Rick. But it didn't kill him now, did it? No, it did not. It killed his wife Diane and his daughter Beth. And this led Rick to going on his own multiversal adventures after creating his own portal gun and swearing a life of revenge to kill Rick Prime. Now you're thinking, oh, that makes him kind of like the Punisher, and we can get behind the Punisher, right? That most recent Marvel Comics arc, notwithstanding. I don't like what they did there, but that's another Death Battle episode. That's another Death Battle episode. We're totally gonna get him versus Judge Dredd. That's next year. Book it. Anyway. But instead of being like the Punisher, he just went around the multiverse learning everything he could and trying to find ways to get to Rick Prime. And this included, kid you not, crashing into the house of Rick Prime's actual family. Because you see, Rick Prime abandoned his daughter Beth and her family, which included Morty at that time, for about 20 years. And so after Rick discovered Rick Prime's universe, he just crashed in and just took over the role of Rick in that family. And after meeting Morty, he, basically conscripted him into his multiversal adventures, and chaos reigned. And I mean, lots and lots of chaos. And here's the thing about Rick. He didn't go to that family out of love or compassion and thinking, well, hey, I could fill in this family's role of having a Rick. Oh, no. He went to that family because he wanted to trick Rick Prime into coming after him. And he thought, hey, if I try to take his role in his family, he'll come after me, and then I can kill him. It didn't work until a very recent episode. But that, again, getting a little ahead of myself. So the thing about Rick, our Rick, is that he is arguably the smartest man in the universe. It is somewhat debated, obviously, because there are other Ricks, including Rick Prime, who evaded our Rick for so dang long. Again, he literally died in a very recent episode. I think it was like the most recent episode at the time of this recording. So he is still one of, if not the smartest man in the universe. But even that is a misnomer because of who Rick is as a whole. What does that mean? Well, Rick was so obsessed with trying to kill Rick Prime that he not only fought and killed a whole bunch of other Ricks to try and get to him, but he worked with these Ricks to create the central finite curve, or something to that effect. It's really weird wording. Really weird wording. Wubba lubba dub dub. Basically, and this is defined by Evil Morty. Yes, that's a thing. Rick was so obsessed, and the Ricks are so obsessed with being the smartest people in the universe that they put basically a barrier around infinity, so that any universe that was within this curve would only have Rick as the smartest person in the universe. Now, to be fair, Rick didn't build this himself, so we can't count that as a direct feat. It was a whole bunch of Ricks who built this, but they basically put a crib, as they said, around infinity so that the biggest baby in it could be the smartest in the entire multiverse, in this section of the multiverse. That's messed up. And the fact that there's an evil Morty, which we just found out his true backstory, is horrifying. And that's actually one of the things I absolutely have to harp on here before I go into like the Rick's feats and abilities and everything. Rick is a monster. Okay? Like, this show does not hide the fact that Rick is a terrible father, terrible grandfather, terrible person, terrible genius, as weird as that might sound. I mean, we've heard of evil geniuses. Rick is top tier. All right? I would dare you, and I dare you in the comments, by the way, to tell me an evil genius that's more evil, that's more vile, more monstrous than Rick. And the reason I say that is that the stuff he does, even under the guise of revenge, is so heinous, is so horrible, is so horrifying that I absolutely refuse to watch Rick and Morty. I didn't even know what the show was when it first came out. I was like, oh, it's some kind of Back to the Future ripoff, which kinda, sorta, it is. I mean, Rick was based off of Doc Brown in appearance and certain other things. But, oh no, they just kept turning the dial up and say like, hey, how much more crazy can we get with this? How insane can we get this? How much more twisted can we get with this? I read articles that's like, oh, Rick and Morty just did this shocking thing, and I'm like left like, that's how crazy this show is, and I refuse to watch it. I think I have access to it on Max, but unlike Courage, I don't want to. This is the kind of scarring that will actually affect me. So yeah, but even with his insanity, which he's absolutely insane, and monstrous tendencies, Rick backs it up by taking on anything and everything that can come his way, and he always lives. Always, he is the guy that just won't die, even when he's on like death's doornail, or not death's doornail, doorstep. Thank you, death's doorstep, and he's even thinking, okay, this is it. This is when I'm about to die. He finds a way out, whether it's through his gadgets, whether it's through dumb luck, his family, like Morty, and so on and so forth. He always finds a way out, and his gadgets, as you saw in the preview, are so nuts that they can help him get out of any situation, no matter what it is. He can clone himself endlessly. He can summon armies with the Mezeebs or something like that. I guess the show is so stupid, but how is this an Emmy-winning show? I think it won an Emmy, but he has multiple kinds of laser guns. He has cybernetics that help him fight. He has multiple kinds of shields. He's actually augmented his body so he can actually survive strangling. He has been able to shrink people. He actually shrunk Morty one time and actually injected him into a person's body. And as you saw, he can make clones by shooting his own DNA into someone's body and popping out alien style. Ew. And that still doesn't touch on things like his space cruiser, which is by and large one of the most horrifying things I have ever heard about. I was thinking, well, but Todd, is a ship. Okay. Here's an episode I read about, and I'm just like, how is this show allowed to exist? All right, and it's for record, it is on Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, so you're warned that this stuff is messed up. Okay, so they only lightly touched upon the ship's AI, so I'm going to give you the full picture. In an episode, Rick and Morty on an adventure. Summer, I think her name was. Summer was with them, and Rick told Summer to stay in the ship. And he said, ship, protect Summer at all costs. Okay? So the ship accepted. Policeman comes around and tries to get the ship to move because it's blocking traffic or something. Ship kills him instantly. And Summer's horrified. Like, what'd you do? I was like, I'm told to protect you. So I killed him. I was like, do not do that. You cannot kill him. And the ship goes, okay. Another policeman comes by, tries to remove the ship. The ship shoots him and instantly paralyzes him. And Summer's horrified. What did you do? It's like, I didn't kill him. He's just paralyzed. It's like, well, that's just as bad. You cannot physically harm anyone anymore. They go, okay. So third person comes by, and the ship does not shoot them. The ship resurrects their dead wife. How it knows that, I do not know. And causes severe emotional damage to the person because they had already grieved the loss of this person, and now they're standing right in front of them. That's the power of the space cruiser, and that's just one of the things that it's done. All right, it can, like I said, they showed in the preview, it can tow a universe, it can go light speed, it has a literal people-filled microverse powering it, which is its own heinous war crime, and it has multiple lasers that can destroy people, as I just noted. It's insane, and that's just one of the things that Rick has on him. And I really, really can't harp enough on the fact that Rick is a freaking monster, people, okay? And I know that I could be doing better analysis right now, but I really don't want to dig into the show anymore. I'm serious, okay? Rick tortures Morty, among others, so much that at one point, I think it was season 5, Morty had literally had enough and was given a gun, and he pointed it at Rick and shot him dead. Or so we thought, because apparently that was all part of Rick's master plan. The round that was fired, that was a blank, and he thought that Morty was playing along to fake the death to help sell the moment, except that Morty actually wanted to kill his grandfather. He literally said, this is an actual quote, you're like Hitler, but at least Hitler cared about Germany or something. When you're saying that you're worse than Hitler, you have issues. And that doesn't even talk about the madness that is Space Beth. Oh yeah, I have to bring up Space Beth. And I know I'm not going to talk about what happened with her, Beth, and Jerry. No. But Rick at one point cloned Beth, was trying to decide if he wanted to keep the clone or real Beth, and then swapped them around, erased all their memories, and then shot one into space so that he would not know which one was his own daughter. He does not know which one is the real daughter between real Beth and Space Beth. They learn not to care, and very, very weird things happen. Like, oh my gosh, this show is so messed up. But it took that realization of them not needing to know, not needing his approval, whatever, for Rick to realize that he was a terrible father. It took you that long? And yet somehow he always gets out of these insane acts. He's canonically about 70 years old or so, and he's had decades of adventures across the multiverse, fighting monsters, all sorts of villains, all sorts. He fought the Federation. He helped lead resistances. He's fought his own family. He's fought his own friends. He's fought and killed other Ricks. He actually stalemated Space Beth, who he only relented to because they had similar amounts of gadgets, which is an interesting thing, but I digress. And he keeps going. Like he does not care. He has such gadgets that he's willing to sacrifice anyone and everyone. He's willing to kill on a dime or just get bored and move on. I think in total I've watched exactly one episode of Rick and Morty, and it was a special 13-minute episode, and I was just like, what did I just watch? Okay, it was bad. All right, it was that bad. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. I've absolutely seen worse. I will be open to admitting that. But again, it was just one episode, and it was arguably the most tame. And even then, he put a crater in Japan that wiped out half of Tokyo, and that was just one episode. So if you're gonna try and kill Rick Sanchez, you better make sure you don't miss, because he'll find a way. Oh, he'll find a way. Oh my gosh, what a monster. I seriously hate this character. And yes, I know he technically has redeeming qualities. He does care about Beth. He does care about Morty and other people. He has been heartbroken in the past, and he has been willing to admit that he's been wrong, but it's very, very rare. And more times than not, he's willing to just do things on a dime, curse God 1 minute, and then pray for a merciful death the next. That's just who he is. Okay, so let's move on to a much better character in Doctor Who. Doctor Who, if you like. So this is an interesting one to talk about. That's because I am a Doctor Who fan. I got on in Matt Smith's era, but then I rewatched the Eccleston and Tennant, and I was able to view some of the original episodes, including Tom Baker episodes, William Hartnell episodes, and I got to watch the Doctor Who movie with Paul McGann. So I have not seen everything, but I am well versed enough, and I love the Capaldi run, and I like Jodie Whittaker, and I look forward to seeing the specials that are happening in just a few weeks. So this is a perfectly timed episode. But the reason it's interesting to talk about this character is that the Doctor's origins are so convoluted and paradoxical that it's really tough to tell what is the real origin, because for a long time the Doctor was just a runaway from the planet Gallifrey, stole a TARDIS, decided to explore the universe with his granddaughter Susan, and timey-wimey adventures ensue. But then later on it was like, oh, he's only half Gallifreyan, but is arguably the best of the lot. Then it was, no, he might be another character entirely. And then with the Jodie Whittaker arc, he/she, or they, are technically the timeless child, the character from another universe entirely that was the natural source of regeneration, and then they were used to create Gallifrey as we now know it, or did know it. It's insanely convoluted. So I'm going to just lightly touch on that and then focus on the good stuff, shall we? So in his first incarnation, see, I already started it. In his first incarnation, the William Hartnell Doctor, which we refer to as the First Doctor, stole a TARDIS from Gallifrey and started traveling the universe with his granddaughter Susan. And then with each life that passed, he or she faced more and more dangers, more and more threats, and quickly became one of the greatest saviors of not just Earth, but the galaxy and the universe as a whole. And I gotta say that because it's a show, based on Earth. Of course, we have plenty of Earth episodes, and then for diehard Doctor Who fans, that the third Doctor was actually banished to Earth to become a part of the British government group known as UNIT, and help them throughout his entire run of the character. And then he's, ever since Doctor number 4, Tom Baker, he or she would just jump around the universe, ending up on Earth, ending up on other planets, other galaxies, other universes, and even the multiverse a few times. So, but thankfully we have not reached the multiverse of Who madness, though we have come close. But the point here is that the Doctor has had so many adventures across nearly 60 years, or almost there, 60 years of life, that it is the longest running sci-fi serial ever. And yes, it's a serial, even though it's not as episodic as it was before. If you look at like the first couple generations, they were on every single Saturday for decades. Like, imagine that workload. That's also why they kind of had cheesy special effects, because they didn't exactly have CGI back then, and they had to crank them out. And you will actually see they referenced this in the biography, or the documentary movie, which I also watched, Adventure of Space and Time. There's actually errors in the original episodes in terms of like dialogue, because they could only get 3 edits per episode. Think about that. That's the time restraints they had 60 years ago. It's crazy. Anyway, but throughout the adventures of the Doctor and his numerous companions, whether they be family, friends, or people he just literally ran into while trying to save their lives, he has faced all sorts of enemies, big, small, insane, cunning, universe-defying, and so on and so forth, including a returning villain we are going to meet in The Toymaker. So be on the lookout for that. I'm sure Neil Patrick Harris crushed it. But just to name a few, we got the Daleks, exterminate! The Cybermen, the Centaurans, the Ice Warriors, the Master, other Time Lords, including the Valeyard, which is actually a future Time Lord or incarnation of himself who tried to steal his own lives. It's crazy. Um, he's faced a literal or planet-devouring entity that threatened to destroy the entire universe. He's faced. I can't name all the species. Sorry. Even with my long knowledge, it would not be it would not be sufficient. Uh, he's faced the extreme law enforcement agent, the Badoons, the rhinos. I already said the Master, but just like him, the Master's a Time Lord, and so he's faced the Master in multiple versions all across his timeline because they are emphatically intertwined, whether they like it or not. But I also mentioned other Time Lords because at the end of David Tennant's run, we found out just how sick and twisted the Time Lords are, willing to sacrifice Earth to escape their prison and bring Gallifrey back to life. But what really defines the Doctor is that no matter who he or she is, they will always do the right thing to win the right way. Not unlike a certain sheriff of Mayberry that you whistle a certain tune to. They don't carry weapons. They only carry what they need, which is basically their wits and their sonic screwdriver. And this is usually all they need to save the day because they just outwit their foes, or they use the situation to their advantage. And so in a way they're kind of like a Batman-esque character, minus the gadgets, of course, because all they need is to just analyze the situation, which they can do incredibly quickly because of their Time Lord physiology, which I'm sure they'll address in the preview, and because of how they perceive time and just understand the universe, they can quickly realize what's going on around them. They can be fooled. We've seen that multiple times, but they are usually able to figure out a solution, figure out a plan, and save the day, which is why they have saved the Earth, the universe, and other planets so many gosh dang times. Like, I'm sure there's not even a number. Plus, because of their acts of regeneration, they don't forget their past lives. They remember them. They sometimes choose not to remember everything, which is a key plot point in Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special. But they do remember their various past lives, their relationships, their companions, their adventures, who they face. Like they'll always the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi, in one episode directly referred to his very first visit to Skaro, the William Hartnell version episode, where he, at the time, as the Doctor, was just kind of venturing around the universe and not really holding to his name of what it means. But when he met the Daleks, he realized, I have to be more. And he remembered that 12 incarnations later, that the Doctor was truly formed when he first met the Daleks on Skaro. So he's got experience to spare. Now, let's talk about something rather interesting. How old is the Doctor? This is yet another convoluted thing, because in the first, I'll be generous, 11 incarnations, so William Hartnell to Matt Smith, he said he was about 1,000 years old, give or take. But then Matt Smith, during the time of the Doctor, his final episode, he lived a much longer life as he tried to defend the town of Christmas, so well over 1,000. And then when Capaldi got in for the episodes Heaven Sent, Hell Bent, he had to go through a cycle of life and death that literally made him about 4 billion years old. Now, you could argue whether that's canon or not, but then with Jodie Whittaker, with the Timeless Child arc, which is just as convoluted, it stated that she was the original Time Child that, again, gave him Gallifrey regeneration. And as a result, she was there before Gallifrey was Gallifrey, all right? Like, she was instrumental in making the race that was before Gallifreyans into Gallifreyans. So at the very least, they are 1 billion years old, even though they don't remember all of it. So let's say between 1 billion and 4 billion years old. How's that for an experience curve? And of course, what makes them special isn't just their experience in their lives and their heroics, but their willingness to be humble more times than not. Yes, we have had some arrogant doctors over there, ones who are a little reckless, Geronimo and all of that. But the reason that they have companions, going back to the Batman reference, is that the companions can help root them in their adventures and make them remember why they're doing what they do. And yes, this does have adverse effects, including one with Capaldi, which I will talk about in a bit. But or Matt Smith, what happened with him in once he lost Amy and Rory, he went into like a serious depression. But overall, he has these companions so that he can see the universe. He or she can see the universe through new eyes, and they have such wonderful adventures. And then he learns from them, and they learn from him. Many of them, honestly, the ones who live, do have better lives because of the Doctor, and even the ones who admitted that. The Doctor is like fire. It's beautiful, it's warm, it's powerful, but you can get burned if you get too close. They acknowledge that, he's worth the monsters. You wouldn't want a world without him. And that's very important because even one of his own wives, River's Song, don't get me started on his relationships, or their relationships, even River's Song said the universe is likely to go dark if the Doctor's not around to protect it. So they are absolutely the greatest defender the universe ever known, even if the universe doesn't realize it at times. But then that's one of the beautiful things about this series, because they have been doing this for so long, they as in BBC and the Doctor, they have enforced that no matter where you go through in time, most people have heard of the Doctor, and he has influenced cultures, civilizations, entire races to understand that the Doctor isn't named to be respected and feared. In Silence in the Library, one of the most chilling moments is when the Doctor is trying to stop these creatures that are within the books of the library from devouring the remaining humans, and he just lost someone he actually really liked. Not River, that was different. And he's furious with them, and they don't care. It's like they're meat to us. They are our food. And he goes, I don't think you quite understand. All right, I'm the Doctor, and you're the greatest. You're in the biggest library in the galaxy. Look me up. And their shadow, like the shadow from the body they are possessing, is stretching out to the Doctor. And once he says, look me up, it stops and then retreats, and they go, you have one day to leave. Or if you remember the Matt Smith one, they misinterpreted what the Doctor meant, and they thought the Doctor meant warrior, which is technically accurate, but the Doctor's influence is universal, and even the Daleks, who are one of the greatest threats that they have ever faced, understand that if they don't take care of the Doctor, they're likely going to lose, which is why they have to get sometimes infinitely crafty in their plots. Now, some of you might say, well, wait a minute, even under death battle rules, the Doctor isn't aggressive. The Doctor does not kill, right? Batman rule, the Doctor does not kill. In fact, the Doctor's name is neither cruel or cowardly, never give up, never give in. Day of the Doctor. Yeah, there's a problem with that. Much like Batman or Superman, who also has a no-kill rule, it is absolutely situational. And there have been times when the Doctor has been pushed to the absolute limit and will allow a death to happen, or we'll do a Batman Begins rule where I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. He did that with Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, where he had the guy who actually had the ship getting chased and destroyed by drones while the dude was calling for him to save him, but he didn't. So, not my problem. Someone else kills you. And then if you remember David Tennant Doctor, there was the family of Blood who was so desperate for immortality that they chased him across the timeline and tried to get him and the Doctor, and crafted this elaborate plan because he didn't want to kill the family, but he didn't want to put other lives in danger. So he actually erased his own memory to live a subtle life within a college. And when they basically took the life of someone he cared about, he went nuts, and he gave him immortality by turning him into things that would never get to interfere with people again. He dropped one down a chasm that they would never reach the bottom at. They turned one into a scarecrow. They hid one within a mirror so that you would only just see her every time you looked into it, but then when you turned back, she was gone. This is the cruelty of the Doctor, and David Tennant emphasizes in great effect with the Time Lord Victorious, which they actually did a spin-off of, where he actually became a rather cruel Time Lord. And so that's something you need to consider here. And to go back to Capaldi, he was so desperate to save Clara Oswald after all his adventures with her that he actually killed a Time Lord. He used his new position as Lord President, long story, used his new position as Lord President to get a memorial with Clara where he actually paused her life the moment before her death. And to try and save her, he had to break out, and he actually looks at another Time Lord and goes, what life are you on? And he goes, 8, good luck to you, sir, and shoots him so he would have to regenerate. So he killed a Time Lord, yet, yes, he knew he would regenerate, but it was still a cruel act. And in the rules of death battle, he's not going to care. Yes, they're going to play the character. Like, I did not get to see the preview, was not up by the time I made this video, but the Doctor, when he needs to, when he wants to be cruel, he will be. And when he needs to kill someone, he will. And don't forget about the Time War. Yeah, I thought I forgot about that, didn't you? No, the War Doctor spent his entire regeneration from the birth at Night of the Doctor to the Day of the Doctor, see how they named that, spending his life wiping out enemies, both of the Time Lords and against the Time Lords. He spent his whole life fighting a war with no end, which is why he wanted no more at the end, and was willing to use the moment, the biggest weapon in the Gallifrey arsenal, to literally wipe out everything within Gallifrey and just outside it, so that this war could finally end. So yeah, the Doctor can be quite mean when they want to be. So if you want to go up against the Doctor, well, good luck with that. Or to put it another way, I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord of the planet Gallifrey of the constellation Castaberos. I am 903 years old. I am going to save your lives and the 6 billion down on that planet. Got a problem with that? No? Good. I don't say. That's a good one. I also want to like the one with Matt Smith. It's like, hello, I'm the Doctor, so run. Anyway, so who wins between Rick Sanchez and the Doctor? Now, your gut instinct might be Rick, because Rick has infinite amount of gadgets that he uses to kill people all the gosh dang time, especially with his ship, which, as I mentioned, is a horror machine. But here's why the Doctor is likely going to win. First of all, experience. All right, he or she has lived their lives facing creatures, beings, species, entities with vastly greater weaponry and powers than them, or even sometimes years worth of planning, like with the Master and the infinite plots that they have come up with over the years. And so between the TV show, the prose novels, the comics, the audio dramas, it's a lot. Even if I wanted to, which I didn't, but even if I wanted to absorb everything, it would take so dang long. So not unlike a Scooby-Doo, there is something out there that will give him or her the ability to win. Number 2, the sonic screwdriver is actually a lot more powerful than you think it is. It is a device that can short out a Dalek, which is one of the most advanced creatures in the universe. And Rick's devices aren't usually meant to be tampered with. So, like, he's the smartest guy in his universe. And then when they actually destroyed the curve, Rick wasn't the smart guy in the universe, and that actually made him scared for it. He even lost his portal gun technology for a while because the curve was gone. So in this Death Battle universe, he would not be the smartest guy around, and I would absolutely say that the Doctor is smarter than him. So the sonic screwdriver would absolutely short out most of his tech, and thus he's just Rick against the Doctor. Now, yes, he would still have some technology that would help him, but so does the Doctor. The Doctor has, on multiple occasions, absorbed the Time Vortex, which is the entity which helps power the TARDIS. Which I noticed I haven't even talked about the TARDIS. TARDIS is its own thing, and I don't really want to get into that madness. It can be destroyed, but it can also be one of the most powerful things in the entire multiverse. And yes, there is a multiverse in Doctor Who. I'm still not getting into that, though. It was only lightly touched upon in, like, 10th Doctor and certain other spaces. So, but I think the TARDIS could withstand the time cruise, not just because of its own time travel capabilities. But the sonic screwdriver would easily short out much of Rick's tech, and if it went into a different kind of battle, like ship for ship, the TARDIS would be able to outlast just long enough for the Doctor to get away and think of his own plan. Another thing here you have to remember is regeneration energy. Regeneration energy, especially over the course of the last few timelines, time periods, timey-wimey stuff, has been so destructive it wiped out a Dalek fleet. All right? And remember, the Daleks are one of the most destructive and advanced civilizations in the universe. So for the Doctor to use his own, in this case his own time energy to destroy a fleet of Daleks, he could destroy the space cruiser with Rick and or Morty in it. So there's that. Another thing is that while Rick would absolutely be able to probably get the first kill shot, that wouldn't kill the Doctor. It would cause a regeneration cycle. And there's technically a weird aspect. They mentioned the whole, if you kill a Doctor during regeneration, that ends the cycle. Thanks to the Timeless Child entity, we're not actually sure if that's still valid. It's never been disproven, but it's not valid. Also, the only time we've ever seen that was when Matt Smith's Doctor used a duplicate to fake his own death. So technically, it's complicated. But that might not be enough, and you could argue that Rick might not take that second kill shot because, oh, he's dead, Morty, let's get out of here, blah, 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 dub, dub. And Doctor regenerates, has his energy, and then boom. That might be all it takes. So, while this is easily one of the most insane things ever, I picked the Doctor for two reasons. One, he has a lot more going for him than you think. And I know that some people think he might get the glory, which is the actual embodiment of the Omniverse. I don't think he's going to get that because it was his companion, who was a Cyberman of all things, who got that, not the Doctor. And so he would not, I don't think he's chaos omniversal. But even still, with absorbing his own time vortex, which he has done multiple times in both the prose and the TV show Ninth Doctor, fantastic. That was poor Eccleston, I'm sorry. He still has stuff that would allow him to get the edge over Rick. And two, Doctor's just better. Okay, the Doctor's just a better character, better person, better being, whatever. The Rick won't. Rick is a monster, and no amount of arc will save that for me. I fully am behind the Doctor on this one, so I am picking the Doctor to beat Rick Sanchez. Who do you think is going to win in this doctorial debate? Weapons debate. And how crazy do you think this episode's going to get? This is going to be a hand-drawn episode. You haven't seen the preview or heard the other comments, but this is going to be insane, and they're teasing some big stuff here. So let me know what you think in the comments below. So I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I know you were listening, and I'll see you around.